All right, it's Friday. We're super excited that the weekend is here. There's a lot going on, but we got to make sure we catch up with one of our pals here who is making his return slash debut on ZASLOW Show 2.0. Raja Bell, NBA, former NBA veteran, the ringer, the real ones with Logan Murdoch, friend of the program. How about this, though, Raja? How much I've been having you on my show for years. We do it on the phone. It's great. Okay, fine. But now I could see you. This is so much better. I say this to every guest we have on now.
It is so much better though, right? Like, I mean, I enjoy being on the phone with you, man, but being able to see the affect, dude, being able to get a look at you, you know what I mean? Like, it's just more personal. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Absolutely. So Raja does the real ones on the Ringer podcast with Logan Murdoch, and you guys have been getting a lot of play lately. You know, I listen to SiriusXM NBA radio every day, and they've been talking about you guys a lot recently. I think most recently it was you had someone on, and you guys were talking about the situation with Trae Young in Atlanta, and you guys have been getting a lot of play lately, man. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean, Logan and I do what we do. I don't know that either of us is super interesting, but we've had some great guests, man. Like we had Sam, I think it was Sam Amick was on. And he and Shams had written an article about the Trae Young situation there in Atlanta. We had David Aldridge before that, who was great. We had Bomani yesterday. So yeah, I appreciate that, man. But it was really interesting to hear Sam kind of talk about Trae. I tried my best to be a journalist, like it's not my background, but to ask questions that I would be interested in knowing the answer to. I think a lot of people thought I was throwing shade at Trae. I wasn't. I was asking Sam from his perspective what his teammates, Trae's that being, like, felt about the situation, and it was interesting to hear his response.
As someone who was in NBA locker rooms for many years, what was likely going through his teammates' minds when he just didn't show up for the game?
I am, I imagine, you've been in those NBA, like there's a lot going on. Like we all have our different routines. We're on the court at a different time. We're getting our specific workouts in prior to going out. So, I don't think it slapped everyone in the face at the same time, right? Like someone would have noticed that they were out on the court and Trae wasn't at the time they were supposed to be there. And then that would have started just kind of percolating around the locker room. Like, yo, dude, you talked to Trae? Anybody spoke to Trae? Like, what's going on with Trae? And it would have just been a complete distraction probably leading up to the game. I think NBA players, professional athletes in general are good at kind of compartmentalizing. So, you could put that to bed, realize that someone else gets a better opportunity, maybe step up, you win the game. And then after the game, there are probably a lot of people sitting around with sideways kind of looks and a lot of, under the breath kind of talking about what that looked like. You left a lot of people out hanging out to dry that night. Like you have a responsibility as a player to be in that foxhole with your teammates, even if you're not able. There are ways that you can affect the game. I've been on benches, injured, not even being able to play a whole season, but just sitting there on the sideline, being able to tell a young player what I'm seeing out there or what he could do in a situation. All that has value. As small as it might be, there's value in that, and you want to be there for your team. So I'm sure there were a lot of people over there that did not appreciate that.
I like the visual of being in the layup line. You guys get out there, start warming up, 30 minutes before the game. Where's Trae? Where's Trae? And, your kids play competitive travel sports. My older son plays competitive travel sports. And I know when I'm out there, kind of counting all right, is so-and-so here? Is so-and-so here? Is so-and-so here? Like, is that happening in the NBA layup line? And they're like, oh, man, where's Trae at? Like, does that happen?
Yeah, no, there's a pit, the pit in your stomach when your best player isn't there and there's 5 minutes to game time. You're like, what the
Where's he at?
Yeah. Yeah, similar, but like on a different scale. I think, NBA players, you realize that when someone is out, while your team might be at its best working capacity, it presents an opportunity for someone else. And we're all trying to make a living. So very quickly after realizing he's not going to be there, you flip into, hey man, this is my time. Whatever this looks like for me tonight, like I got to get my stuff together because it's an opportunity for me. So, there's that going on in an NBA locker room. But yeah, dude, like you certainly, hey, if Steve Nash or Amari Stoudemire or Allen Iverson or Dirk Nowitzki or any of the great players I played with, if they weren't there 10 minutes before tip, an hour before tip when we're all supposed to be there, yeah, there's a little panic going on for sure.
I know your boys, and I see the posts on social media. All three of your boys are super athletic. Your older one, I know you're traveling around right now for football. All right, you're traveling around right now. He's a quarterback. How is all of that going? I mean, I do. My son right now. We started a Miami Classic tournament began last night down in Hialeah. So our entire weekend this weekend is spent in Hialeah and Kendall. We got a tournament there for soccer. It got off to a great start last night. My
Good
son's
stuff.
my son's the goalkeeper, which is the strangest dynamic because in order for my son to do something really good, something terrible has to almost happen. So it's a really strange way to watch the games and
Right.
root for my son. It's very nerve-wracking. Your older son, especially, you're doing the whole college tour scene and all that, and he's a quarterback. What's that like as a father in the stands?
Oh man, it is so nerve-wracking to watch. You get nervous as a player, but as soon as you get out there, you get nervous before the game, but as soon as you hit the field or the court, that turns into adrenaline and
Not
juices
when
are
you're a
flowing.
parent, though.
Not when you're a parent, man. It is absolutely gut-wrenching to sit up there and watch, but it's really been fun. For me to kind of be on this journey with all of my kids. And Dia, my oldest, his team American Heritage plays for a state championship against Miami Central next weekend, and to be a part of this road that he's on has been cool for me. Like I guide, I try to give sage advice from experience and whatnot, but really it's his journey, and he chose football, and he's a hardworking little dude. Like, he was up at 6 this morning before school over getting his workout in at the gym. I mean, this is a real commitment, right? Like, and obviously academics are first, like he's like a 4.8 kid, but he really is on his grind. And, it's just been fun to be a part of it with him. And so I really mean it when I post and I say, man, it was just an incredible experience when we get to go to some of these places and I get to sit back and watch his interaction with adults who are interested in him, and see him learn how to have his own voice and how to, shake hands and look someone in the face and stand up and be a young man amongst all of this stuff that's going on. It's been a pretty cool journey, straight up, really cool.
You're not there yet. You're going to experience it hopefully when he gets to that next level, and maybe even one of your other sons gets to that next level too. And you've experienced success at the highest of professional levels, but I would imagine you're going to wind up realizing one day this is so much more enjoyable than what you were doing.
Oh yeah, no, I look. It's so much, it's so much more rewarding. And I guess it's all about perspective, right? Like, I mean, you love your kids like you don't love anything ever in the world, right? They're the best things I've ever done in my life. So to watch them be proud of themselves and feel accomplishment for putting in the hard work and then achieving a goal and seeing their successes, even their failures, and when they learn from them and you can see them not make that same mistake again, like there's a huge wave of pride that courses through myself and my wife. My wife was a great athlete too. She played, she was player of the year soccer at FIU. Like, so I like to give her credit. People think it's me, but she was a tenacious, soccer player herself. So, the kids got a good background in that regard. And it's more pride than I ever had when I played. Like, I could score, points or hold somebody to a poor night shooting and we'd get a win. And it was business as usual. Like, there was some pride, but not like watching your kids. Like, that, like, it's just it's a whole nother animal.
As a quarterback, do you tell your son, are you preparing him that it's always his fault?
Yeah, no, listen, our conversation is, we've had these since he was little with all my kids, but when the thing happened with Zach Wilson, it was another opportunity, and we had those. It's an easy one in our house. Like, when things are good, it's we and us. When things go bad, it's me and I. And no matter what you're doing, sports or whatever, if you can kind of stick to that motto, I think you're going to be okay. And it buys you some grace with people to get it figured out and try to be better. And so, the good thing about Dia is that he's not like his old man, in that I could wake up and be completely different people. Like, I run hot and cold, man. Like, like most people who watched me play would meet me and say, "Hey, dude, you're nothing like the guy I saw,
Right.
or who I thought you
Right.
would
I
be."
thought you were a dirty player. I thought you were going to be like that in real life too.
Yeah, most people say that, but that's me. He is a very even-keeled, super calm person, highly competitive, but really, really steady. And so as you're playing different positions, like that lends itself to PG play, like Steve Nash and Isaiah. Those guys were great. They were always steady. They led. They'd speak up and get in your stuff if they needed to, but for the most part, they kept it here. And so Dia's like that, and it kind of comes across. It lends itself to kind of playing that position. So I'm really proud of it.
I'm gonna get to some NBA stuff with you in a second here, but as people who are listening can tell on the Ringer podcast, the real ones with Raja and Logan Murdoch, they talk about plenty outside sports, as you can obviously hear. Yesterday was a wild day, man. I did my show yesterday right after I watched the president speak about Brittany Griner being released, but it's a super complicated and somewhat controversial scenario. I saw a lot of stupid yesterday on social media. Were you especially bothered or annoyed? Like, what stood out to you yesterday?
I didn't really dive into the social with the Brittany situation because I was just so happy for her and her family, and all of the people who loved and championed to bring her home. And I didn't want that to be ruined by, I'll pop in and read some of the stupid stuff once in a while, but I honestly didn't want it ruined because I thought it was, I thought it was just such a, I felt for them, although I've never had something like that. And I pray that I don't have anything like that, to compare it to. I just felt for those people, and I felt the weight, kind of lifted off of them, and I didn't want to be distracted by that. So I was happy she was home. I'm so proud of the WNBA community as a whole, the way they rallied and kept it on the forefront of people's minds and never dropped the ball in regards to championing for her to come home. The part that the NBA players played in that, I thought was pretty dope. And anyone else who played, a role in it, I'm proud of them, and they should be proud of themselves, and just happy for her and her family.
The part that really bothered me yesterday was, and it's great that she's home. It's great that they found whatever way they were able to find to get her home. But the reality of it is the part that bothered me was, it's one of those deals where we got to kind of fix our own house in that situation, because we just exchanged a terrorist to bring her back home for a crime that is not legal. A crime, I say with air quotes, something that is not legal on the federal level in our country. And we are incarcerating people in this country, probably the majority black, for very similar small crimes that she just committed. And they're sitting in our prisons rotting away. We just exchanged a terrorist to bring her back for something that the same kind of people are still in prison right now in our country. And I think we got to take another look at that, because that doesn't seem right.
Well, I would agree with you there. I think, we're getting into another conversation for sure, but, and I'm okay with that. Like, that is, that is something that I talk about. Obviously, people who don't know me, and my background, like, while I am a black male and I have one perspective in this world, that is my reality. I married a white woman, and she's got a completely different perspective on what this world is. And we work it together, and we share, and so I get her family's views, her extended family's views. I get my extended family's views. So I actually get a really good look at it from a lot of different perspectives. And I try to tell people, whether we agree or not, this country is the greatest country in the world. I'm not saying when I lobby for change, or I'm saying that there are things that need to be changed, I'm often met from different people with, but where would you rather be? And I'm not saying I'd rather be anywhere else, but what we're saying is, we can always be better, right? Like, we can always find change. And so I agree with you, Zaz. Like, there has to be, like, some of these are in place for a reason. Some of them are just old and antiquated, and the times have changed. And so, I think if in any walk of life, you would look to get better and continue to progress and move with the times, and the laws are no different.
So I've been very upset the last couple of days here, Raja. Basketball is my favorite sport. NBA is my favorite league. I've been very upset the last couple of days. The load management in the NBA, Raja. Raja, it's an epidemic. Okay?
I know this about you. Let's go.
It's an epidemic. And I felt so stupid the other day after Jimmy sat out the second night of a back-to-back. I was praising him when he came back, the game in Boston. He's been out for 2 weeks. He plays 35 minutes. He sticks it to the Celtics. I love it so much. And then the second night of the back-to-back, he sits out. The load management is making me crazy. I don't get it. I know you came from a time playing, late 90s, early 2000s. Guys are playing, all right? They're getting out there. You got to be bleeding out your ears to be, if you're a star player, to be held out of a game. And here's also what I don't understand. Raja, you're telling me that Jimmy Butler couldn't give the Heat, and I'm just using Jimmy because it was a local example recently. It could be any star player. But you're telling me they couldn't give the Heat 15. Why does he got to play 35 minutes? He couldn't give the Heat 15 minutes. What if the Heat were up by 3 at halftime that game, and then Jimmy plays 15 minutes in the second half? That's not going to help the team win that game. Why can't we do that, Raja?
I'm going to tell you why. Listen, from my background and as much as we played, how I feel about this. I like guys to be out there playing. Let me say this. Now, I spent a year with the Cavaliers in their front office. I was probably maybe 6 or 7 years removed from the NBA, roughly, 5 to 7 years removed from the NBA. So when I got there and I started conversing with our medical team and our sports science people, I was absolutely blown away by how much data that they now have compared to what we had. Like, it was virtually non-existent. And now everyone is wearing a heart rate monitor, and they're able to track every step you've taken, and they're able to dial you in to optimum level of performance on said game night. So if we know we're playing on Thursday, Monday might be high volume, high intensity. Tuesday, and I'm just using, who knows here, but it might be, low volume, high intensity. Wednesday might be low volume, low intensity. And then Thursday, by this scientific data, we are at our best. And so what I would say to you is, I think there's so much of that going on that if you play a player and he laces them up at all, they're counting the work that he's doing pregame. They're counting the work that he's doing in the warmups. They're counting those 15 minutes. And in their, matrix, that work doesn't allow him to be at optimum, and they don't count it as a true rest day. And so when you're working solely off of that and what's going to have our players at the optimum, and you're subscribing to that in this new analytical world, like, you're going to get guys, he's shut down. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're working off of just purely shut down, because that no work is what his body needs right now per this data. So we can't even play him 10 minutes. Now, I like to combine the two. I like the feel. It's the same way I operate with analytics as it pertains to actually playing the game. When the feel and the analytics come together, I think you're in your sweet spot, right? Like, you can't just be all feel and you can't just be all analytics.
No, it's a tool to help us make the best decisions.
Correct. But to answer your question, I think that's why it happens, right? Like, because all of this data, and we've got all of these samples that says, like, even if he goes out there and plays 10 minutes, the workload and the warm up and everything that he's had to put his body through to get those 10 minutes, it's not worth the potential injury that we have this data to support could potentially happen. So we're just going to shut him down.
But then there has to be a middle ground. And what I mean by middle ground, if we're learning more medically about what keeps these players at optimum health, then eventually we need to sit down and say, you know what? 82 games ain't for us anymore. Or, you know what? Back to back, and I don't think they do 4 games in 5 nights anymore, but that's not for this league anymore. Because what winds up happening, and these are the messages I've been getting the last few days, Raja, I got Heat fans who have been season ticket holders for 25 years who gave up their tickets this year because they're tired of driving all the way down from Boca to Miami and learning that, Jimmy's off tonight. It's not right. Like, there has to be some type of middle ground.
Well, I agree with you. I know it's a bigger conversation than I'm able to really participate in, because I don't know the ins and outs of every TV deal, and I don't know, how much is being lost but I know this. As a 46-year-old man, my body can tell you right now, playing 12 seasons of 82 games was not a good idea for the way I feel. Like, I did it because it made a great living for me, and I'm not complaining about it. But the point is, the body's not made to do that. It's a lot of basketball, and it's a lot of preparation just to play a lot of basketball. So I agree with you. I've always said that 82 is a lot of games, but I know that this is business and it's got to take place. Here's my beef, and I don't have the answer to this either, because I am now a fan who would have to buy tickets. And we went to watch free, by the way, because my man David Griffin is general is the president or whatever in New Orleans. We went to see the Pelicans play, and it was a great game. But Zion played for a minute, and then Zion got hurt. So this wasn't even a load management thing. It changed the game for the kids. Do you know? Yeah. So if I were buying the tickets, going down, and then you hit me with the last minute, hey, scratch, especially under these new flex pricings, Zaz, it used to be every ticket cost the same.
Yup.
Now I'm paying a premium because Jimmy Butler is coming to town. You telling me Jimmy Butler's not going to play? I paid the premium, and now he's a scratch. I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah,
so
it's not right.
I don't know what the answer is, but they have to figure that out.
Yeah. Let's do a little bit of actual basketball here. Listen, am I in for a long season here with the Heat? I mean, they had a pretty good win last night. I know Kawhi didn't play, never plays. But the Heat beat the Clippers last night. They haven't been able to string together. You know, they've won 3 in a row. They got to 500. They won 3 in a row. They got to a game under 500, and then they lose terrible games. Memphis, the game against Detroit. Like, where are we now with the Heat? Like, is this what the season's going to be like?
I think I don't think that you should expect the level that you got to last year. I don't think you can expect that as the end game for the Heat. Could they still be a good Eastern Conference team that is really solid and a scary out in the playoffs? Yes, I think they can get to that. I trust the Miami Heat as much as I trust any franchise to get things pointed in the right direction, whether it takes a little bit longer than people thought or not. They're just structurally and sound. They're everything is in place from culture perspective and expectation. There's accountability. The problem is you've had some injuries, right? Like, and that's always an unpredictable thing coming into a season. You can't account for those, right? So people have been in and out of the lineup. They've been injured. And quite frankly, I think the Heat are still, Jimmy Butler is a fantastic player. I think they're a piece away is what I'm trying to say. Like, Jimmy Butler, I think in Jimmy's heart of hearts, does not want to have to carry the load scoring every night. It's not his bag or his ideal role.
Or he doesn't want to do it for 48 minutes. He likes doing it in the fourth quarter.
But that's fine, right? That's fine. But like, and so that puts you in a role where you need another guy who can carry nightly and consistently. And you're in this weird spot. Does Tyler become that? Well, the jury's still out. We'll see. Does Bam continue to grow his game?
He's been great lately.
Right. But until that happens, I think the Heat are in this weird place where they might not have enough against the better Eastern Conference teams, right? Always going to be solid, always going to be sound. We'll figure it out once health is taken care of. But when it's time to get over the top, I mean, you need another guy.
Finally here to wrap up. It's Friday. Okay, so we do a lot of football today. Is the Bell household fired up over the Dolphins? Are we excited over Dolphin football this year?
Yeah, we're pretty excited about Dolphin football, man. Like, it's been fun to watch. It's been exciting. It's amazing. Sidebar, what a coach displaying confidence in you can do for your own confidence. Yeah. And this is as it pertains to Tua. I had this happen to me with Jerry Sloan and Mike D'Antoni. People that didn't believe in me offensively, it bore itself out that I couldn't play offense and couldn't shoot. And as soon as Jerry Sloan and Mike D'Antoni told me, hey, we believe in you, dude, just let it fly. All of a sudden I could shoot. It wasn't a skill set thing. It was my confidence because someone displayed confidence in me.
Why didn't Larry Brown want you to shoot?
Larry, what? Go figure, right? But it was, I find that fascinating. I love it. I love Coach and Tua's relationship. Obviously, the receivers are really exciting. And my son trains. I told you he was 6 a.m. this morning over at Perform with Nick Hicks, and he's Tua's guy. So we have a really close connection, kind of to Tua's training and stuff like that. And so we're pulling for him all the way, man.
Isn't it great? I've loved Tua since day one. I've believed in him. I'm so happy for him. Obviously, if the Dolphins would have gotten Tom Brady like the plan was a couple years ago, like, it'd have been really cool. But it's so much better when it's your guy that you can win with, as opposed to renting a Lamborghini and having fun for a couple years. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, first of all, it's your guy. You drafted him, like, you've grown with him. And I mean, like, what's Tom Brady, to your point, a couple years, right? Like, who knows? And being in this quarterback world, I think it's so fascinating, man, because it happens in basketball. When I was talent evaluating in basketball too, you always get the guys that just get obsessed with the metrics and the size and the speed and the jumping ability, or as it pertains to quarterback's arm strength. Like, that's all good. I'm not saying you discount all of that, but what the hell happened to people that just win?
Like what happened
Kid's
to
a
people
winner.
that,
Feels like a winner to me.
you know what I mean? Or just, in basketball, like a good PG who doesn't turn the ball over. Maybe he's not a highlight reel, but he protects the hell out of the ball and he makes everybody around him better because he can distribute the stuff out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think, football too, we get caught up with different, hey, he's got to be 6'4", 225, and he can throw it through the stadium wall. Well, what if he can't hit the broadside of a barn from 8 feet away? Like, how does that work for you? So, like, I'm pulling for the kid. Like, I don't have a dog in the fight necessarily, but the Dolphins have been fun to watch, and because of our little connection and having been through something like that personally as a pro,
that's cool.
I'm pulling for him.
Raja, tell everyone how they can listen to you guys on the Ringer. Go ahead.
Yeah, we come out Mondays and Thursdays. Logan Murdoch and I, we're called The Real Ones. We're on the NBA, the Ringer NBA feed. There are a lot of great shows on there. We're just one of them. We don't really break it down X's and O's, as you know that. Like we'll get in the weeds with you every now and again, but we like to have a good time, tell stories. We have great guests, and just generally chop it up about life and basketball, man. Mondays and Thursdays, Real Ones.
Great job, Raja. This was excellent. Appreciate you, man.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me, bro.